I don't know that I ever recall being normal. I mean, or being perceived as normal.
There were a lot of social difficulties. I would have a lot of trouble figuring out what the right thing to do was in a particular social situation, or even if I knew what it was, sometimes doing it.
It's not a decision not to speak. It wasn't like when I was a year old I decided, okay, they all want me to talk and I'm not going to.
I knew I was definitely not normal. I mean, I was teased in school. My parents didn't approve of almost anything I did.
I had one friend, I went over to see him one day, and it turned out that he and his family were out at the time. I tried the front door of their home and it was unlocked. So I simply went inside and sat down in their living room and waited for them. And I couldn't understand why they were upset when they came back, to find me in their house.
Every summer, an unusual group gathers here in the hills of upstate New York. Autreat is a camp run by and for people with the brain disability of autism, like founder Jim Sinclair, as a break from what they call the neurotypical world.
Half of the time, I do not even know what the song is about.
There's no fishing or hiking at Autreat, but there's a lot of talking about what everyone here has in common.
I can't understand it. And the other half of the time when I do understand it, it's about experiences and feelings and lifestyles and events that I cannot relate to. It's been a way for autistic people to come together and learn about each other and learn some of the things that one may never have associated with autism, especially if all the information you have about autism is what you see in the literature, which is all negative and kind of biased towards seeing autism as pathological.
Autism exists along a spectrum. Most of the people at Autreat are high-functioning intellectuals, like Dave Spicer, who came with his wife Dove. But they say they have the same sensory problems as low-functioning autistics who cannot live independently.
I've likened being autistic to driving a car with a bent frame, where if you just take your hands off the wheel, it's going to veer off into the ditch. You always have to be aware of what's going on and be able to compensate for some things.
Under stress, high-functioning autistics can lose all language, but the low-functioning may never be able to speak. Derek uses a keyboard. His conversation is limited to asking questions.
What are the names of the planets in our solar system?
Jim Sinclair says until he was 12, he was like Derek, unable to speak or to understand anything that wasn't concrete.
So I would write, very advanced papers for my age, but I couldn't speak. But everything that I did with words was factual. It was on a very factual level. I could do an independent research project and go read a whole lot of books about the skeleton or the circulatory system and write a report about it. But ask me about anything subjective or anything abstract, and I wouldn't know what you were talking about.
A social species works because there's a lot of different people cooperating. And some of those differences include people who hyper-focus, who specialize in one thing, who aren't really that much interested in people. This is a very valuable kind of personality.
To Laura Tasanchev, autism is not so much a disability as a different balance of abilities.
It's a disability when you try to fit it into the expectations of others. I was repairing my own computer within a week or two of owning my first computer. In contrast, yes, you present me with some things that might seem very simple. It took me a very long time to be able to deal with the telephone.
Autism is considered a social disability because autistic people often don't understand nonverbal cues, such as looking people in the eye. Dave Spicer says for him, it's not for lack of interest.
I can pay more attention to someone when I'm not making eye contact. I have a hard enough time dealing with nonverbal communication anyway, picking up cues and figuring out what people's expressions mean and so on. I have to work so hard at figuring that stuff out that for me to have eye contact with someone and have a conversation at the same time would be very, very hard.
At Autreat, for once, the world is arranged to suit autistic needs. There's no shaking hands. Autistic people often dislike human touch.
This is going to be hard to walk and carry a tote at the same time.
And everyone has a badge for limiting social contact.
Okay, we have 3 colors. It's like a stop sign. Green, like a stoplight. Green means welcome anybody to come talk to you. Red means you want to just have your own thoughts to yourself and don't want anybody to come talk to you. And yellow, which is in here, I can pull it out, means only people you know you'd like to come talk to you, not strangers. Just come up and start talking.
9-year-old Elijah has been coming to the camp for 3 years with his mother, Valerie Tekovec.
He started having seizures at around age 3, and he had had delayed speech and a lot of repetitive behavior. Since he was our only child and our first child, we really didn't know what this was. But as soon as the seizures happened, we started to see that there was really something happening going on there. And shortly after that, then the word autism started to be bandied about.
I want to be Phil and Lil.
Okay, I'll show you something Grandpa Mel taught me.
Valerie says that entering into Elijah's fixations about certain movies or games, rather than trying to distract him, has helped him grow.
I call that beginner's luck.
I didn't know, I just guessed.
At first it was just a building upon of greater awareness of things, but that has very gradually, and I must say beautifully, become an awareness of ethics, of emotion, of other people, and difference in point of view, all of the important things in life.
Valerie Tekovec is a professor at Bard College. She's writing a cultural history of high-functioning autism. She says that many geniuses in art and science, Albert Einstein among them, seem to fit the profile.
Einstein's theory of relativity was an elaborate fixation. Andy Warhol's soup can paintings and silkscreens were a fixation that changed the face of art in this country and in the world, And these are all things that all of us share in as a culture.
Now, one issue here, camera-wise, somebody here is having some real problems. So, I don't know how much right here should be filmed.
Autistic people do suffer from being so different. They're often mislabeled mentally ill. Laura Tasanchik was once diagnosed as schizophrenic.
I've said that was proof that psychiatrists hallucinate. I have said at times that my current diagnosis is the autist formerly known as schizophrenic. What other joke would you like? I'm sure I could invent one if you'd like.
Despite the difficulties, the campers at Autreat say they would never choose to be non-autistic. They say they wouldn't be themselves anymore, and the rest of the world would lose something valuable too.
My name is Elijah.
This is Carolyn Weaver.